Welcome to Money Matters with financial advisor Russ Story of Story Wealth Management Group. With over 20 years of advising clients, Russ has some ideas to share with you based on biblical principles, financial strategies from a Christian perspective. It all starts now. Here's your host, Russ Story.
This is Russ Story with Money Matters coming at you. It's good to be here. We're going to talk about money because money matters. Money isn't everything, but it sure keeps the kids in touch, they say. So, my name's Russ Story. I've been a financial advisor now for about 24 years. We have really enjoyed our work. I've been very blessed. We're going to talk about several things here. And we're going to talk about your money and how money matters. We're going to talk a little bit about a budget, why I don't think you should have a budget. Wait a minute, you're a financial advisor, Russ, and you're saying I should not have a budget? Well, just hang on. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, and I'm going to talk about sharks. I'm going to use some shark analogy on you. So, how do you vote with your money? That's number 2. We're going to talk about biblical investing and why what you invest in really matters. I'm going to probably throw at you an estate tip, risk of having an account with your kids. We're going to talk a little bit about that. My name's Russ Story. I am with Story Wealth Management here in Georgia. We work with families in 9 states around primarily the Southeast, although we've got clients in Minnesota and Arizona, and we've got them scattered all over the place. But it's been a pleasure. It's been a blessing. And so I'm just throwing out a few questions at you here. Does the brokerage firm that you're currently with, do they have a conflict of interest when it comes to making investment recommendations for you? And does your financial advisor have your best interest in mind? Hopefully he does. One of the things that we are committed to at Story Wealth Management Group is we don't have these embedded conflicts of interest. We don't have proprietary products. We don't have things that we think you should buy because it's lining our pockets more or less than the other recommendation. If you are concerned or you're not sure whether your current firm has a conflict of interest, some of them have these conflicts of interest, and some actually tell you they do on their public websites, and we can talk a little bit about that. Our number is 877-240-9787. Send your emails to me if you have a question or if there's an issue that you think we should address here on Money Matters. I'll be more than happy to do that. Send me an email at rstory, RSTORY, at storywealth.com. Or, as I say, give us a call, 877-240-9787. Okay, I want to talk about why you shouldn't have a budget. How about that? Why you shouldn't have a budget. Well, first of all, having a budget is something that we were taught back when I was in financial planning school. The one thing you always want to do is encourage your clients to have a budget. That's the basis of where they spend their money, and it shows them how much they spend and how much and that way we can make adjustments to the budget, right? I mean, I'm a financial advisor. Certainly I advocate people sitting down and having a budget. Well, not so fast. I'm, after 25 years basically of doing what I'm doing, I've learned a few things. First thing that happens is you have issues. Maybe a husband and wife, they're sitting down and you're going over the budget, and pretty soon she starts telling him why he shouldn't have things in the budget, and she starts telling him and he starts telling her why the fishing boat's really important. And so you start having, and then I start being a marriage counselor instead of a financial advisor. So Let me share with you. I don't know if you're old enough listening to this, you probably remember the movie Jaws. How many of you remember Jaws out there? That was a movie that scared me to death. I mean, after I saw Jaws, that first Jaws movie, I don't think I got in the bathtub for like 2 weeks. Okay. I mean, I didn't want to get in water anywhere. I remember we took a family vacation and went down to the beach. And while we were down there, we found that these guys were shark fishing, and they were doing it quite successfully. And they had a couple of sharks up, and they were talking about there at the dock, and they were talking about how what they were doing with the shark, and they would take the jaws, and actually let them dry out or whatever. And one of the sharks, they were cleaning the shark, I guess, or whatever, and the shark had little babies in there. And the little babies were coming out, and I won't forget it because I wasn't very old, and it was pretty impressive thing that I saw, this realistic and practical science lesson I was getting right there. Of course, my dad was an old retired biology teacher, and he was right in the middle of it. And one of the guys that was doing the knife work or whatever said, the thing about sharks is that if you take a baby shark and put it in a small fish tank, he won't grow bigger than that. In other words, too big so that he won't live in that fish tank. And if you take him out of that one and put him in a bigger aquarium, then he'll grow a little bit, but he won't ever grow to be the size where he's too big for that fish tank. And then if you take him out and you put him in a big, SeaWorld, and you put him out in the big whatever, then he'll grow bigger, but he won't ever outgrow size-wise. Now, I don't know if that was, hogwash, but boy, I was listening to it, and it sounded, it impressed me, right? Because I remember it, and I'm 53 years old. So, your expenses will always grow to the size of the money you have to spend. Okay, so it's sort of like the shark in the shark tanks. I mean, I don't know about the sharks, and I don't know if it's true about sharks. They're amazing animals for sure, and it seems to me that genetics would dictate, how big they get or whatever, but in the food. But maybe not. Maybe this guy knew what he's talking about, but I kind of doubt it now that I'm older. But your expenses will always grow to meet the size of the money you have to spend. So we sat down, let's go over the budget. Let's take a look. We're going to cut out things that you don't want. No, let's don't do that. What I've learned over the years is, first of all, why does the IRS take money out of your check before you get it? The reason they take money out of your check before you get it is because otherwise they wouldn't get any money, would they? You'd spend it, you'd owe the money, and they'd have a real hard time with collection. So there was a guy, Bernard Baruch, who advised 3 or 4 presidents, Kennedy, Roosevelt, and I think Eisenhower and Truman, if I remember right, and he was kind of responsible for this idea of a pay-as-you-go income tax situation. So I want to talk a little more about why you should not have a budget when it comes to your financial plan. We're going to take a break, and I'll get right back into it in just a minute.
You're listening to Money Matters with financial advisor Russ Story of Story Wealth Management Group, where their purpose is to help guide clients in making the right decisions for their financial future. Russ Story began investing in the stock market through a class in high school over 30 years ago. He spent several years in Atlanta as a vice president with Buckhead Financial Corporation, and now he operates the Story Wealth Management Group based out of Douglas, Georgia. He has lectured at the University of Georgia on issues of retirement planning and financial issues, and taught investment classes at South Georgia State College. His titles and designations include financial advisor, registered financial consultant, and investment advisor representative. For more information, remember this website, storywealth.com. That's storywealth.com. And now for part 2 of Money Matters, here's your host, Russ Story.
Okay, so this is Russ Story back with you. Money Matters. We're having a good time this morning. Story Wealth Management Group is the name of the firm. If you want to look us up online, you're welcome to do that. That'd be good. www.storywealth.com. You can give us a phone call, 877-240-9787. or send us an email. You can email me, Russ Story, at rstory@storywealth.com. Now, we're talking a little bit about why you shouldn't have a budget. I just talked about sharks not outgrowing their fish tank, and now I want to tell you why I believe that we should pay ourselves first. Now, as a Christian, I believe, the Bible talks about first fruits, and we should give that back to the Lord. So what I would say to you is that first thing we need to do is tithe the money that we make as income, tithe with the first fruits. Number two, we should pay ourselves first. If you set it up so that you have, and we do this sometimes, where we will deduct from a checking account at the beginning of the month and put it over into a retirement, or depending on what the goal is for that investment account, move that money over there. Then the money that you've got left, guess what? If you're planning a vacation and instead of going to the 5-star resort, maybe you go to a 3-star this time, or maybe instead of eating out 4 times a week, you cut it back to twice or something. But, what we found is that just like that shark in the tank analogy, we have a tendency to spend, and it becomes, nothing in that budget is something that's just, we can do away with, but we spend money based on what we receive. But if we pay ourselves first, after we pay the Lord, then guess what? In my experience over 25 years, that is just about the only way that you're going to be able to accumulate money from what I call income transactions. In other words, save money out of the money that you make. That's about the only way you're going to do it. Because I know human nature. I've been doing this more than a day or two. So, if you really get serious about putting some money aside, I'd encourage you to pay yourself first. Pay yourself first, and then learn to adapt to the income that you have left. Now, once you do that, sometimes we'll start with a little bit. So, Russ, I believe I can put away $400 a month. Okay, we'll start with 2. Well, why would I say that? Well, because if you can do 4, you can certainly do 2. And then once you do 2 for a while, move that to 3. And then move it to 4. So my point is, allow yourself some adjustment periods and so that you can take advantage of the time value of money and compound interest, which is really going to work for you or against you. So anyway, that's I think that's pretty good information there. Now, I'm going to do a deep dive with you here. I'm going to talk a little bit about some things that I've been basically under conviction, honestly, and sometimes I'll share with you personal stuff, and we'll just lay it out there, and you can take it or leave it or whatever. And but one of the things that's been on my mind and heart lately is, over the year, what are we investing our money in? We manage an awful lot of money, millions and millions of dollars for our clients. And where's that money going? That money, when it's invested, it goes to help support, finance different enterprises. And the question is, what type of enterprises are we supporting? What kind of enterprises are we engaged in? And are those enterprises things that we agree with? Now, some of you listen to me by way of radio right now. If you knew that the money you were investing over at brokerage firm XYZ was going to fund abortion, then you wouldn't like that very much. Some of you might not care. But some of you, if you felt like it was going toward the promotion of alcohol or whatever. In other words, my point is, how much of your money or how much of my money, how much of Russ Story's money is it okay to have invested in issues, whether you want to call it religious or social or whatever? How much is it okay for my money, Russ Story's money, to go and to be invested in things that I don't agree with? Now, I really don't. The answer is very simple for me, not a penny. I really don't want to promote abortion rights, Planned Parenthood. I really don't want my money to go for those things. I don't want to promote gambling. This is a personal thing I'm sharing with you. Pornography, entertainment, tobacco, alternative lifestyles. I really don't want my money to go to promote alcohol and the things that brings about. So, we as financial advisors and you as an investor, we vote with our pocketbook. I've heard that along and a lot, but it's a reality. And you have literally thousands of choices when it comes to just mutual funds alone. And I think we should, as Christians, maybe consider what God would have us do as far as biblically responsible investing. Now, this isn't like socially responsible investing. It utilizes environmental and social screens, but BRI aligns the investors with moral values with their investments. Okay, so we're talking about not just the social criteria. We're talking about biblical principles and trying to support those things. Randy Alcorn is quoted as saying the average Christian whose retirement program is in mutual funds or stocks managed by others has no clue where God's money is actually going. Well, I want to talk a little bit about that today and kind of see one of the things that we use at Story Wealth Management Group. Now, this is an option for you, and I think it differentiates us from a lot of other firms. Number one, if you said to me, Russ, and we allow our clients to indicate that they want to pursue this. If you said, Russ, I want to invest money based on what I believe is based on sound biblical principles, then that's great. And we will run the screens and we'll determine as best we can, I believe that a foundation and principle in my practice and my family and dealing with folks, I believe that God owns everything. I think we need to take a pro-family approach to investing, not only to benefit the investor, but the broader culture. Many people would say we're in a cultural war. I don't know that there's been a time in my life where I didn't believe that was a greater truth. So how much? Do you know? Do you know how much of your money is invested in companies that promote alternative lifestyles? Maybe you don't care. Maybe you do. I think the Bible pretty much is clear. We should be good stewards. And I've come to the conclusion that this is something that I should offer to my clients. And we need to take a look. Now, what are some of the things that we screen for? Okay. Well, we screen for those companies to see if those companies are in there that promote abortion. The screen seeks to protect the life of the unborn by screening out companies that are involved in the abortion industry. That includes fetal research and manufacture and distribution of the tools of the trade. Family entertainment. Excuse me. Families are the foundation of, I believe, our Judeo-Christian culture and the values instilled we need to preserve. And one of the screens that we run, it identifies companies that are engaged in anti-family entertainment through the promotion of violence, language, sex, drugs, advertising, media, games. And there's a lot of ways that we go by and use that screen. Now, one of the neat things about the report that we use is we not only will run the screen, but we'll tell you what companies your money's invested in to promote. We will tell you what their violations of the screens are and when they were. It's very impressive. There's a lot of information out there. It's just a matter of compiling it properly. I want to continue with investing with biblical principles in just a minute. We'll be right back with a word from our sponsor.
You're listening to Money Matters with financial advisor Russ Story of Story Wealth Management Group. Financial security is more than just a balanced budget. It's about knowing that you're prepared to face the worst in life and that you're ready to take advantage of the best. This type of security can require a highly individualized approach to financial planning and investment management. Story Wealth Management Group is committed to providing just that, focusing on both the numbers and the people by making your unique personal aspirations a cornerstone for your tailored solutions. For more information, remember this website, storywealth.com. That's storywealth.com. Or call the office directly at 912-384-0030. That's 912-384-0030. And now for part 3 of Money Matters, here's your host, Russ Story.
Okay, it's Russ Story back with you. Money Matters. We're at Story Wealth Management Group. Our phone number, you can dial us up, 877-240-9787. You can send me an email, rstory@storywealth.com. That'd be great. You have questions or something you want us to talk about, give us a call. Does your financial firm that you're currently doing business with, do they have an option? Will they allow you to screen your investments for biblical principles or those things that are in violation of that? So we talked a little bit. If not, give us a call. Send us an email. We'll be glad to talk to you, and we can run one of these reports for you based on your current portfolio and give you an idea of what you got and what your money's going to promote, going to finance. 877-240-9787. Our story at storywealth.com. So we screen for issues concerning abortion, family entertainment. We want to dig in and look for companies that are engaged in anti-family entertainment. We want to talk about, we believe that we're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Identifies companies that are involved in human oppression, human trafficking, oppressive labor issues. And not only do we run the report, tell you what companies, we tell you who they are, what they did, and when they did it. We talk about, this is an option. We can screen for tobacco. Some people don't worry about that. We can or cannot screen for tobacco. We look at that as, the Lord says our body is our temple and His temple, and He resides in it. And we want to do everything we can so that our body is pure. So that's an option. Pornography. We identify companies engaged in the promotion of adult themes through advertisement, media, games, stores, establishments, on the internet. Marriage is a holy, it's a holy institution instituted by God, and we look for companies engaged in alternative lifestyles that don't promote traditional marriage. Alcohol, it hurts and destroys children and families. Our one screen that we run identifies companies that enable abuses, including brewers, distillers, microbrewers, and winemakers. That too is an option. If you, based on your conviction, think that's, kind of out of the school, then we don't have to screen for that. And last but not least, stewardship, gambling. We're called to be wise stewards by the Bible, and this screen particularly identifies related activities: casinos, equipment manufacturers, riverboats, cruise lines, racetracks, gambling software, this type of thing. So, looking at the big picture, so you say, wow, man, if you run that screen, Russ, that's probably going to eliminate, 90% of the companies out there. Well, not so fast. This, it's pretty amazing the way it works. Here's looking at the big picture. There are just out of looking at, I'll give you an example. Here's one screen that there were 780 companies screened out of, I want to say that's about 12,500 companies that were actually analyzed, and, through the funds and mutual funds and the investment portfolio. So 94% of the companies were good to go. 6% were not and didn't meet our criteria. We can do this with a entire asset allocation model. We can run the screen and then provide investments that meet the criteria. I think, most anybody can invest a little money along and along, especially if you do it the way I talked about. So I think, to sum this up, I believe every dollar that we spend or invest is truly a vote. And the way we invest not only affects our financial goals, but it really affects broader culture. And I think when we choose to invest in an investment, we become owners in a company and help support financially the mission, the vision, the activity, the behavior of that company. And the dollars we use as votes either continue to reinforce and grow companies that bring true value to our world. And when I say true value, I mean Christian values, aligning with our pro-family, pro-life values. And just to be frank with you, I mean, that's where I want to be. That's where we want to be at Story Wealth Management Group. Now, I was looking at this and I started looking at, the investment manager in me started looking when I started digging into this, and I thought, what is this going to cost me? Yes, it's kind of neat, but at the end of the day, what's this going to cost? Because if we eliminate the opportunity to invest in some companies that, fundamentally might be very attractive investments, then of course it's going to cost us from a total return standpoint, right? Well, let me tell you what I found. I got to digging in, and I found that really wasn't the case. I actually found investments with track records that screened for this criteria, that on purpose met the criteria that I just discussed. And they eliminated those companies that you and I as Christians may agree that really doesn't meet what we want to do. These other companies over that 6% or whatever it may be, we really don't want to be aligned with those guys. We want to align our investments along with the other things as best we can, align them with biblical principles. What I found was that the returns were very, very competitive, period. They were very competitive. Most, investment managers have a hard time beating the S&P 500. Well, I looked at one firm that meets the biblical principle tests, and they beat the S&P 500 over the last 3 years, last 5 years, last 10 years. I mean, man alive. It hit me like a ton of bricks that sometimes it doesn't cost at all. In fact, most of the time it doesn't cost at all to do the right thing. So just wanted to share that with you. Now, do you, as a client of Story Wealth Management, is this something that I am going to push on you or make you? No. But it is something that's available to you. If you would like to take a look, then that's something that we offer. Excuse me. And I think that differentiates us from a lot of other places. Speaking of other places, does your financial advisor always have your best interest in mind? Hopefully he does. There's a lot of good guys in the financial advisory business. I hope that I'm one of them, but there's some guys that basically are engaged in major firms that you've all heard of that are engaged in business with a disclosed conflict of interest clause right there in their literature. How do you feel about going and sitting down with somebody if you knew that they had a conflict of interest? In other words, they had 5 or 6 or 7 types of investments that were paying them more money to recommend those investments to you than another investment that may have done a better job from a risk return standpoint. How would you feel about that? Well, do you know if that's the case or not? Well, my firm's a major firm. I don't care. A lot of times folks don't realize some of these major firms are engaged in that activity. How would you feel if the firm that you did business with just recommended proprietary investments? In other words, investments owned and operated by the firm. I mean, the chances of that being the best option for you as an investor is very slim. Okay. So now it's good for the investment firm, but the question is it good for you? One of the things we do at Story Wealth Management Group, where we try to maintain our objectivity. We don't have proprietary funds that we want to, shove on people. We don't have this embedded conflict of interest where we have a certain preferred fund families or certain preferred investment carriers. What we try to do is look at things objectively so that when you come sit down with us, we want to provide you with good, solid, objective advice to help you solve tough financial problems. Now, I'm going to hit one more thing here, but I'm running out of time. I want to share with you, because I promised you I'd do it, I want to share with you an estate tip. One of the things that I run into from time to time, and I had some folks talking to me about this it was this week. The issue was, I'm going to have my kid go on my account down at the bank, and I think I'm going to put my kid's name on all my accounts. I think, I'm getting older and I want them to be able to take care of it. Well, you know what? That may work out just fine. But I think, there's a few things from a financial standpoint, a practical standpoint you need to know about. If you still decide to do it, then that's fine. I just want you to be informed. If the kids, for some reason, now or later, if they get in a situation where they owe taxes in the future, the IRS could come get that money if their name's on that account, maybe. I mean, they could come and say, well, you know what? This money is in their name too, and boom, the money is confiscated. It's gone. If the kids have a creditor lay claim, then that creditor can come get that money too. So that's a risk that you're dealing with. What if what if your daughter is married to, and your son-in-law has a car wreck? Well, if their name's on it and they come in and sue, they may sue them jointly. I mean, I'm not sure about the law in that case, but a car wreck could really cause a lot of problems. And maybe after the car wreck, the plaintiff can come in here and maybe take money that was originally your money. What about a liability suit? Maybe your daughter is engaged in a business. Somebody slips and falls down at her store, and next thing you know, they're suing her. And guess what? They're going after anything that's got her name on it. Could be a problem. Now, medical bills. What about medical bills? Again, that'd be a creditor situation. So, say your son-in-law, your daughter is on the account with you, and so her name's on that, and all of a sudden you just never would have believed it, but now they're getting a divorce. He could claim that he's entitled to, half the assets maybe to be split. I mean, there's a lot of things that could occur. And one of the things that, we encourage folks to do is, sometimes the easy fix ain't always the best fix when it comes to managing your finances, estate planning, and this type thing. A lot of times the easy road is not the best road. So I'd encourage you, and I'm not saying don't put your kid on your checking account or a bank account or investment account. I just think you need to know the risk involved. So, this has been Russ Story, Story Wealth Management Group. Our phone number, 877-240-9787. You can look us up on the web at storywealth.com. You can send me an email, rstory@storywealth.com, RSTORY@storywealth.com. And, keep those cards and letters coming. We appreciate hearing from you. I hope everybody has a great weekend. I hope everybody has a happy and safe Friday weekend and going forward. And it's all about, money doesn't buy happiness, but it can buy Coca-Colas and fish bait. So anyway, hope you guys have a great weekend. It's been my pleasure.
And that's another edition of Money Matters with financial advisor Russ Story of Story Wealth Management Group. Find more information on this website, storywealth.com. That's storywealth.com. Feel free to email your questions and comments to Russ at this email address, rstory@storywealth.com. The email, rstory@storywealth.com. And finally, here's the phone number to call right into the office of Story Wealth Management Group, 912-384-0030. That's 912-384-0030. Story Wealth Management Group is an independent firm with securities offered through Summit Brokerage Services Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Summit Financial Group Incorporated, a registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, as you may incur a profit or a loss. Please carefully consider investment objectives, risk, charges, and expenses before investing. Past performance cannot guarantee future results. Summit Brokerage Services, LLC, and Story Wealth Management Group do not provide legal or tax advice. For services of legal or tax advice, please seek the services of a qualified professional.